Alright guys, this is going to be a continuation of the elevator servo and some other miscellaneous things. So what we've got here is we've got to go ahead and get this attached to here. We don't really have this centered yet, so probably my next maneuver is going to be to hook up a battery and an electronic speed control and so on and so forth to this. Not necessarily via our extension cord, although we could also get that cut, and just that way we could test that function as well. The difference is we're not 100% sure exactly how long we need this to be yet, so I sort of hate to terminate it just quite yet. The other thing is, seeing how long it is now, well, with that servo installed, leaves me a little bit tempted to try to use just a servo extension cord that is already complete. Preferably one that's brand new. Given the nature of this project, I don't want to leave anything to chance to save $1 on an extension cord or whatever these things cost, a few pennies each, you know. So if I were to plug this in, it would be plugged in something like this, okay, and then it would probably reach, but I wouldn't have much leeway, that's for sure. I don't know. I think I'm going to be stuck probably assembling one. They're kind of a pain in the butt to assemble, I got to be honest, guys. I'm not really looking forward to it, but I know how to do it. I think I am going to go ahead and test it the other way, though, just because I don't really think I'm needing to get that done right this second. Okay, so I got my radio turned on. Throttle cut is on. I've got my little test rig over here, so I can actually just grab that. Now I just dropped something that I don't want to search for later. This is the tool that's used to remove the collet. I'll put that there. Just any 3S battery will do, because we're just trying to energize the circuit. Okay, double checking, verifying that the throttle cut is on and that the throttle stick is down. Timer's cleared. Okay, everything should be safe. We are plugged in currently to the throttle channel. Okay, just letting everything boot up. And so now at this point we can go ahead and plug in the servo. We are going to use an extension cord just for making it a little bit easier. So this is the elevator, guys. So it doesn't really matter where you plug it in, but I'll plug it in the elevator just to be on the safe side. Okay. So that is backward right now. Not that it matters. We're just going to reverse that right now. Okay, throttle cut's still on. I'm just going to leave that energized while I do this. So now this 3M tape, leave crap all over your scissors, so I'm going to use the crappy scissors for this. I'm going to just throw away the first little teeny bit, like that. Make sure we get to a good piece. And then I'm going to look at cutting off a piece like this. We're just going to get a ballpark for what we need. And if that's right, we'll use it. It's actually even more than we need. So I'm going to trim it down. And yet that's again a little bit more than we need. We want this to be the right size for the job, And the reason we're being so picky about that is because if we get too large with this, then the epoxy won't have anywhere to bond to the side. Okay, so you can see that's a really good size. We'll go just a hair less, and then we'll give it a little bit of a bend at the end. Okay, so now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take some alcohol to it. And my alcohol is sitting out here. And the reason for the alcohol is just to be 100% sure that we have a good clean surface before we do anything. Okay, we got alcohol in this cotton swab. And we'll use the dry side to dry it. And that'll clean it as well a little bit. Okay, then we're going to take this little piece that's going to be our cover, and that's the way that's going to go. Let's take and clean this, and then we're going to dry it in the area where it's going to be adhered. Okay, very good. Cap off the alcohol. So let's do a dry fit first. Okay, remember, we got to make sure that that stays in the middle. I could trim off these wings, but I'm not probably going to do that because I don't think it's going to be that close. Okay, so we know exactly where this needs to go, so we can go ahead and adhere that. Give it a pretty good press. Now we know this is centered, but we don't know that that's trim centered. Okay. Now I want you to notice something else. These are the screws that came on that servo, and look at that. So I'm currently supplementing the screws that we had from the plane to go with this, or the screws that the guy who sold me the plane had put with it, with the servo screws that we got with the Emax servo. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this screw in here. And I normally don't put this in at this stage, but I'm not 100% sure how easy it's going to be to get that on and off. I suspect it will be quite easy, but I don't know that with certainty. So I want that to be centered in the pocket, but I also want to be able to move the elevator up and down without hitting anything. See how it's hitting there? So I need to go over more. Okay, that's free. That's free. I think I just want to be centered in the pocket. Okay, so centered in the pocket's the way we're going to do it then. So now I'm going to peel this double-sided tape off. That stuff is really on there. Okay, wish me luck while I do this so I get this centered on the first shot. I'm hitting on that far stroke, so I want to try to recenter it a little bit. Seems like it'd be really easy to do this. Probably just a high consequence maneuver. Anytime the maneuver is high consequence, it always seems like it's a lot harder than it actually would be if it was of low consequence. Okay, so far so good. So now before I press it down real hard, I want to make sure we can get that in there solid, which we can. Okay, so it's in there good. So now I can go ahead and press this on, let the double-sided tape do its job. And I'm really tempted to just take some hot glue and just glue it on there instead of using epoxy. I really don't want to make this a permanent thing because servos do go bad. But I also don't want it to be a weak connection. Epoxy is very heavy. Epoxy does not always come off clean. Hot glue almost always does. it's definitely going to be strong enough to just keep position here, but it is heavy. I don't know. I can think about that more too. It doesn't have to be decided right this second. Okay, so you can see as the elevator moves up and down. But I really wish that was not pulling down so tight. But I guess you don't always get what you wish for then. Okay, so I want to put that up there, probably. Test for throw clearance. Alright, next thing's next. I gotta go ahead and make a mark. Probably use a Sharpie. Anything that we mark with a Sharpie we can wipe off real easy anyway. Trying to avoid the bends and weak points there. This is an ultra fine tip, if it makes a difference to you folks. Okay, so you can kind of see where my holes are lining up. It's like they didn't design this pocket exactly right. But whatever. I guess that's life in the big city, right? Okay, so now I need to drill some very small holes for pilot holes. So for that, I'm going to probably be looking at this metric kit. And this metric kit is perfect for this sort of thing because then I can size it up against the screws. Remember, we want the threads to bite in the fiberglass, but we don't want the threads to expand and break anything. So we have to really get... That's really close. That would probably be satisfactory. And we got a little bit of room for screwing up. Not lots, a little. Meaning it's probably technically the next size up. So we've got the drill. Okay, so this is a highly critical moment. So I'm nervous. Okay, so that screw is going to also go through the hinge, which is interesting. Okay. Now this screw is just going to have to walk in at a bit of an angle from here down, because I can't do it any other way. Okay, I'm going to pull this head off. Okay, so now we need to get our screwdriver and try to seat this. So we'll use this piece to hold the screws in. Yeah, that should be fine. We'll actually run the screwdriver down and then we'll run it a little bit at the end, which should open up the hole just a little teeny bit. Okay, so now what we'll do, we need to get a longer screwdriver because we're right up against the horizontal stabilizer. We'll see if this is a long enough one. It probably is about right. A little awkward. But this one's going to be the worst one. So I kind of got to start with it, because it's the one that needs to go in right up against that side. This screwdriver sucks. Yeah, that's why it's up there. I'm going to try this one. This one's a lot better. It's also thinner. Okay, I think what it is this screw kind of sucks too. It's designed to receive a bigger screwdriver head, which is totally weird. Let's see if I can use a number 2 on it. I know it always seems bizarre, but sometimes these screws are actually designed to receive a bigger screwdriver than you might imagine. Yeah, that one's a little much. Okay, well, I guess we're going to grin and bear it, use this one. So far, so it's not totally broken yet. And this seems like it shouldn't be a big deal, but it's kind of like one of those moments where if I make a mistake, I don't exactly know what I would do to fix it. And I don't run into situations like that too terribly often, because I fix stuff all the time, both in real life and at work. So when I run into a situation where I don't know exactly what my remedial action would be in the event of a screw up on my part, it's definitely a little bit scary, because I'm not super familiar with the materials, I'm not super familiar with the plane. Well, so far things have gone relatively smooth. As soon as I get this started, I gotta put that back up. So now this white plastic doesn't exactly match, which is a bit of a bummer. Kind of the rest of the airframe. And I'm not sure exactly what I could do to match that other than, you know, of course, paint it. Can't quite get the angle I need to get this screw in this last little bit. I'm trying to make sure I don't get it in a situation where I strip out the screw head in spite of being able to get it in. Okay, it's in. Oh, I don't want to say it's a relief just quite yet. It's a partial relief. Okay, elevator up, elevator down, elevator down, elevator up, elevator down. Seems like it shouldn't be a very big deal, but it kind of is a big deal. Okay, so now the next step in this process is going to be something like getting whatever mechanism I'm going to use to control horn this. And they had provided these kind of weird looking mechanisms. And again, I'm not 100% sure exactly what the deal was, why. Oh look, they call for a washer there. Interesting. That's what I was thinking we should use. Not 100% sure what the problem was with these, but seems to me that they're pretty high quality. This is the alternative choice I had in mind. But one thing about these CMPro, these are what they are. Control horns, is that they're very big and they're a little bit heavier than this, but from a functional standpoint I just don't see them adding much value to the whole equation. Plus they have their own backing. I don't know, I'm thinking if I can make that work, I want to make that work, especially in this tight area. Now these would work good for the ailerons. And see, I've got all the screws I need there too. And then I have enough to do the elevator, the aileron 1, aileron 2. And I got all these little linkages with the turnbuckle set up in it. So I don't know, I think I might try that, even though I ordered a bunch of crap to do this and I went to Hobby Town here. I need this for the for the rudder. But then I bought a bunch of crap that I probably won't need now. But that's okay. I'd rather have more than what I need than need what I don't have. Even if that meant I wasted $10 on materials. Everybody probably say, will you use them on the next project? Probably not that. But yes, at some point maybe I will. That magnet's going to hold this for me again. Okay, so if this is correct, if this is going to work, then I need this to open up, and I need to make it big enough to bite onto that, which I think in this case I'm probably just going to use another one as a template to see if it's big enough. It feels like it's going to be a perfect size, to be honest. Not a huge fan of the way this goes together here. See how it's opened up a little wider than it should be. Not crazy about the way that's opened up, actually. Makes me a little bit nervous. I guess we'll just have to see how this one responds. And with a little bit of gas tube on there, or whatever material we end up using to kind of keep that clevis from opening back up. Jeez, I don't know how it would open up. It's kind of hard to get the thing on there in the first place. I suppose under heavy torque load during flight it's possible, but okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to go to the outermost hole, that is. Oh, you son of a gun. Okay, so it's in there. And it's more or less down. It's not catching on anything either, which is kind of handy. But it's definitely opened up more than it wants to be. And it isn't quite exactly capable of making the angle that I'd like it to make. That I don't like. That might be unacceptable in this application. Because you see what I'm saying is, as this goes in and out, it needs to be able to pivot up and down. Because the nature of the direction of the sweep on our servo, I don't know that we're going to be able to get away with that, which sucks. I could also bend this, which would help to mitigate some of that. I know that most people that have this problem are they'll use a ball joint, and that's definitely an option. Okay, so now it's time to look at my alternative choices that I have. Well, it didn't take long to get away from this option. So if I use these, I can't necessarily say that it's going to change things much. Got this one here. It's going to do the same thing. I may have to find some way to do a ball joint. Unless I can somehow adapt something similar to this that would move forward and backward, and then that would allow the pivot on both of those axes. I might have to look at my bag of tricks real quick. Alright guys, I've thought about it for a minute. And what I did is I grabbed this regular rod, which is precision metal stock 497, which is 0.039 inches or 1 millimeter. And I'm going to take and I'm just going to bend a rod. And we're going to see how much better that works. I think I need to cut off this tip. This tip has some damage to it. This blade is in super great shape. Okay, so now that we've got that cleaned up, rounded on the end, I can validate that it will fit very well. Not any play to speak of, it's not so tight that you can't get it in there, but it's not so loose that you can just do whatever you want and have your way with it. Okay, so I'm using these to bend my Z, get down into that saddle area, and you can really get a tight. You start it here and then you can bring it back to the saddle. Okay, see how I did that? You can also bring it up in there and really get it tight. Okay. So just, you know, while I had the video paused, I put on my safety glasses, because this sort of stuff is right up in your eyes, or right next to it. Okay, so obviously that's going to need to go in from the top. So that as it pivots, it's allowed to tip up. If you go in from the bottom, well, we could go in from the bottom, but we'll have to probably make an accommodation for it. Let's see how it goes first. Let's try it there. Okay, so elevator, elevator. So obviously that's good. And, you know, guys, to be honest with you, anytime you can have a direct linkage like this, it's almost always better. You know what I think we got to do different if we do that? We'll have to probably bend it all the way around upon itself. So we'll use this on the other half. We'll use this on the side that's up on the wing. So I would like to try to continue using this. So I'm just going to go straight into the most adjustment setting. And what I want to do is I want to kind of get a feel for where we're going to end up, so I can start making accommodations for that. Okay, so right now there's where we would need it to be, but we need to put some sort of an adjustment in here. So we'll just do that right now. This will be a super simple adjustment. Just spin it right back on it itself. And we'll bend this straight. And that's all she wrote, guys. Doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. And then I can square this up just a little bit to make both sides even. And I'm sure there's probably some tool that shows how to, you know, do this without any effort. Well, congratulations if you have that tool. Use it. Okay, so we got that there. And then we're going to have that. Something like that. Okay. So, we dropped our little plastic piece, so let me find it real quick. Okay. Sliding this back in. We may have to satisfy that wiggle there a little bit. I've got some ideas for that. We'll deal with it at a later time. But for now, I want to try to get this thing so that it's mounted in here. I think we might go in the middle hole on this one, just because of the extreme difference in height. Okay, So my thumb is marking where we need to bend. Okay, checking for squareness and bending down. Bending down. And then we're going to take and start the bend. And we completed it. Good. So now there's a couple different ways you can cut this. The easiest was this, but you know, it is hard on your tools. So don't just do it all the time, because you'll ruin the cutter. Okay, so we'll just lay that down for now. And we're about ready to run out of memory here, so I'm going to try my best to get this. Pretty sure we're not going to make it though, guys. So I guess for now, appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be coming back for more real soon.